Today we're going to be looking at the 1/6 scale Jabba the Hutt figure from Sideshow Collectibles and his throne environment. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, but because it's so big and hard to handle, I've just been putting it off. You can tell he's quite a big boy here, and when you add the throne in the mix, it's even bigger. But when I heard that Sideshow's new 1/6 scale Jabba figure was coming out very soon, I thought, well, I'd better get on this and actually finish a review. This was released about 12 years ago in 2007, and this was one of the first collectibles, actually, of any kind that I bought, and certainly one of the first Jabba collectibles. I got mine shortly after it was released, and remember being very impressed when I opened up the packaging. It's certainly very large. You can see here in comparison with the vintage Jabba figure just how large it really is. This Sideshow version is certainly the biggest Jabba action figure that's ever been made, and one of the bigger statues as well. He's made of vinyl and is actually hollow, so he's not super heavy. If you turn him upside down, you can see his tail is actually a separate section that's been glued on, although you can't really see that if you're looking at it normally from the top. And there's also a big patch here where they've covered a hole that was created, I guess, during the rotocasting process there. If you try really hard, you can sort of squeeze him a little bit. You can see that he's hollow, but for the most part, he seems quite sturdy. He's not too flimsy feeling or anything like that. At this point, I've become very familiar with the sculpt of the Jabba puppet from Return of the Jedi. I know a lot of the sort of identifying characteristics, the wrinkles and warts and whatnot, and they've really done a fantastic job of capturing those here, getting his sort of oddly asymmetrical looks down really well. Where it falls down, though, is the paint job. Overall, it seems overly green to me, and a little bit airbrushy looking, and the eyes in particular just are not very well handled at all. They appear to be hand painted, but very little detail there, and don't look great. They look better if you're not looking at them too closely, but still, this is not what Jabba's eyes should really look like. There is a very impressive amount of detail on this figure, though. If you look on any part of it you want to, you can see there's tons of wrinkles and warts and all that kind of good stuff. They do have his arm tattoo, which is one of the sort of main identifying details that I like to look for in any Jabba figure or statue. It does look a little bit different than the design from the actual puppet, but I'd say it's pretty close. Overall, I would say the paint technique is actually quite good. On the face, it could use a little work, but they do a lot of blending of different colors and things like that. I think the main issue is just the colors that they've chosen. His face and belly are a little bit more of a beige color than an orange color, which I generally prefer for a Return of the Jedi Jabba. On the tail, he's got his tail scar, which is another one of those identifying details that I like to look for. Now, they call this an action figure, but in reality, it's only got 2 points of articulation. It's got the left and right arm that can swivel like this. It's not a lot, but you can get a little bit of personality there. You can use his left arm in particular to hold things like a froggy snack or the hookah pipe, but that's pretty much it. It's pretty much a statue. One of the really unique things about Sideshow's offering at the time was that it had a full throne available. When you consider that most of Hasbro's action figure versions of Jabba didn't even come with a full throne, it's all the more impressive that Sideshow was able to pull it off at this scale. Now, the throne was sold separately from the Jabba figure itself. The Jabba was $120, and the throne was $200. If you look closer at the throne, you can see it's got a lot of nice stone texture there. The paintwork is maybe a little bit on the airbrushy looking side, but not terrible. He's got a nice little grate here that I shudder to think what it was used for, sitting right underneath him. There's also a couple of holes there where some metal pins go in. Now, mine has this weird arrow on it that I don't remember being there before, and my hunch is that maybe it was drawn there in magic marker in the factory, and over the years it's just come through the paint. At least that's what my theory is. The throne gargoyle heads are quite nicely sculpted and painted. They've got actual metal rings in their mouths, which is nice. You do want to be a little bit careful with these rings because the gargoyle's teeth are just made of resin and can break off if you're not careful with them. Now, the throne itself is made of polystone, so it's very heavy. This railing appears to be maybe polystone, maybe resin, I'm not sure. It's got 2 large metal rods that go down into the holes in the throne and secure it there. This bowl looks kind of like it's got some kind of liquid in it. It's not a bad effect. And then on top goes the hookah pipe. And There we go, just fits right in there. There are also a number of decorations that go on top of the throne, such as this sort of faux leather animal skin. And I think it's a good idea to use this just if you're going to be displaying this for years, as I am, to prevent the paint on the bottom of the Jabba figure from reacting with that of the throne. It comes with a couple of pillows that are made of hard resin. You can just put them wherever you like. And it also comes with this little plate of food, which is kind of interesting. I've always wondered what these actually were. And are those chopsticks on there? I don't know. And finally, we can put the hookah pipe on top of the railing. The top globe here, it's supposed to look like it's full of smoke and liquid, but I don't know. It's not a great effect. It just looks kind of opaque. It's got a section here on the bottom that slots in there. And of course, it's got the actual pipe end there that Jabba can hold if he so desires. And if we put Jabba on the throne, we'll see everything you would have gotten if you had bought the Jabba figure and throne environment back in the day. Well, everything except one. They actually made an inclusive version of the Jabba figure that's basically an exclusive that has no set maximum number that people could buy. So anyone at the time who wanted the inclusive version could have ordered directly from Sideshow and gotten this lovely ornate toasting goblet. They did actually use a goblet like this in the movie on the sail barge. Jabba was holding one, and you can have the figure hold it as well if you so desire. Or you might want to just put it on the throne as another decoration. In addition to the figure and the throne environment, Sideshow also released a couple of sort of accessory packs for the throne, and I'm going to look at those right now. The first is the Salacious Crumb Creature Pack. This included 4 or 5 creatures, depending on if you got the exclusive version or not. The first one is Goal, who is a creature who was sort of clinging to one of the walls in Jabba's palace and kind of frightened C-3PO as he walked past. This one has a magnet in the bottom, so you can theoretically stick him to a vertical surface, which I've sometimes done. Next up is Wart, which I believe was only pictured outside of the palace, kind of a frog-like creature that caught something with its long tongue, but you could certainly have him around the throne. This little guy is called a dwarf varactyl. It's kind of a winged lizard, I guess, and this was the Sideshow exclusive bonus for buying directly from them. Not fantastic, but kind of nice to have. And finally, we have here a sand skitter, which appears to be a combination slug and rat, which is pretty awesome, actually. Well, I said finally. Actually, of course, the star of the show is Salacious Crumb himself, who comes with a pillow that he sits on, and I would say the sculpt here is really quite good, as is the paint. The paint on all of these is really quite good, actually, now that I think about it. These are all made out of kind of a slightly rubbery hard plastic, and not polystone or anything like that, so they have a little give to them. None of these have any posability of any kind, so they're essentially just plastic statues. But I do think they add quite a lot to the general atmosphere of the throne when you put them in place. I would consider that pack to be almost a must-have if you're going to buy this set. The other one is the Bubo, or Bubicular, creature pack that comes with 3 or 4 creatures, depending if you have the exclusive. You may recall in A New Hope, Luke talking about bullseyeing womp rats in his T-16 Skyhopper. So that's what this is, I guess. He's got 2 sets of ears and 2 tails, interestingly enough. There was also an exclusive version that included a different womp rat as well, in a different pose, but I don't have that one. This is a rock wart, which is apparently a sort of venomous predator that lives around the palace area. I don't know if I remember actually seeing this in the film, but it's a pretty cool looking creature and nicely painted and sculpted. Pretty scary looking, actually. And finally we have the one the pack is named after, Bubo, who is apparently called a frog dog. That's his species. He's in his little gimp outfit or something here. I don't know what that is exactly. It's got a kind of a harness that he wears. And it's a weird-looking creature with his humanoid hands and then no lower body there. But again, well sculpted. I mean, there's no posability or anything on these either, but they definitely add something to the throne when you put them around it. So, you know, These I wouldn't consider to be must-haves exactly, but they are nice to have. One thing that is a must-have in my opinion, though, is the Bib Fortuna 1/6 scale figure. This one is actually quite well done. He's got a bit of a glassy-eyed stare, but otherwise well sculpted and painted, and his outfit is pretty good as well. They made two different versions of this. One was an exclusive that came with a kind of a staff that was inspired by the vintage figure. I don't have that one. Here you can see some of his outfit, pretty well done. He actually had a little damage there just from leaning against Jabba for several years in my collection. It kind of messed up the paint a little bit there, but he does come with this sharp knife, dagger, and also one froggy snack, which he can hold in his hand. Here we have the snack in question. You can just put it right in his hand there, and he can offer it up to Jabba. I can't remember if this figure actually comes with other hands as well. I've always just used the holding hand and the pointing hand because they seem particularly appropriate for this character. So with the addition of Bib Fortuna, we have the entire setup as it existed in around 2007. And, it's a pretty impressive one at that. Later on, Sideshow did release a number of other figures and environments that could work with this sort of Jabba's Palace theme, and I've also included some things from other companies here as well. Maybe we'll talk about those in more detail in another video, but I did have something else I wanted to talk about today, and that is repainting the Sideshow Jabba figure. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of people think that this figure is a little bit too green, and I've seen a lot of people attempt to repaint this. Many of them are very impressive. I did do one myself about 10 or 11 years ago, and that's what you see here. It's possible I went a little overboard here and went away from green more than I should have, but I wanted to get the sort of orangey look that I associate with the Return of the Jedi character that was missing from the Sideshow figure. In particular, I wanted to get the eyes looking more like what I thought they should look like, and I'll tell you, this is not easy to paint, but I think I got a little closer than the stock paint job at least. But whether you have a repainted Jabba or the stock one, this is definitely one of the most impressive Jabba collectibles out there. But of course, Sideshow has just released a new version of their 1/6 scale Jabba environment, so I am very interested to see how it stacks up in relation to the old version. I just received mine yesterday, so you can look forward to a video review of that in the coming days. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching.